9,000 people have decided that I am worth watching. So to celebrate, I'm going to do a Q&A session. So hey, my next milestone is going to be 10K subs. For that, I want to do something special that's not a Q&A video, unless you want it to be a Q&A video. Because anyway, I'm putting the ball in your court. I need suggestions for something special that I can do for 10K subs, assuming I actually reach 10K subs. Leave your suggestions in the comments below, and I'll be asking again, probably on the community tab at some point, or on Facebook or Twitter if you follow me there. So now on to your questions. Shichimiya Saturn asks, is there a specific culture you enjoy being a part of more than others? Example, preferring Japanese culture and way of living to Western or vice versa. I kind of like just making my own culture, following my own rules. Like, there are aspects of Japanese culture I like I mentioned this, I think it was in the last Q&A video or something. I like bowing culture. I don't like American culture of small talk. I mean, Japanese has small talk as well, but like if you're passing someone on the street in a walk, I like how in Japan you can just nod or bow, whereas in America, somebody says, hello, how are you? And you have to respond, and I don't do that very well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like just making my own culture. Vanessa Moore asks, do you think someone who is not a native English speaker, not brought up in the West, but who is kind of proficient in the language because of being exposed to it from a young age, can become a Japanese/any other non-English language to English translator localizer? Will they be able to earn as much as a native speaker would? So the prereqs, often in job postings, they'll say like, must be native English speaker or must be native Japanese speaker or whatever. You can kind of bypass though, I would say. I mean, if you were born in Japan and then you moved to the US when you were like 6 and you're basically bilingual, I mean, there's varying levels of that. So I think the definition of native speaker is fluid, and oftentimes they'll say like native level speaker, which can be, that's open to interpretation. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to be like literally a native speaker of that language. As far as earning potential, I really don't know. La 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 asked, can you explain the usage of ka when it's used informally? Like for example, kazoku tasuketai ka? Do you want to save your family? Yeah, so ka informally. So I just did a video about the pros and cons of learning Japanese through anime. In the rest of this comment, I forgot to show more in the YouTubes, so it cut it off. But they went on to ask, like, I've seen it used that way in anime, and a lot of other people then responded and speculated, oh, I think it's this, I think it's this. A lot of the consensus in the comment replies to that was actually correct. As I said in that video, the pros and cons of learning Japanese through anime is that anime characters are larger than life, so as such, they're going to be exaggerated, and they're going to speak Japanese a little weird sometimes. So yeah, you don't really end your sentences with ka if it's informal forms of verbs. And this is talking about like if it's a question and the end of the sentence is ka, as in like as a question marker. Of course, you can use ka after the informal form of a verb to be like, would you like to eat the steak, or would you like to go to the mall? It's like or in that case. But yeah, if it's like the end of a question, typically if you're doing informal speech, you just leave the ka off and then you raise your vocal inflection. So instead of kazoku tasuketai ka, it would be kazoku tasuketai. Like you do the you'd raise your inflection at the end and then put a question mark at the end instead of ka. But yeah, in anime, sometimes the characters will have ka at the end because, again, they're larger than life. Sometimes it can be sarcastic if you do ka at the end of an informal verb, like shiru ka. Like shiru is to know something, and then ka would be the question marker. It would be like I know, or like I care. It's not do I know or do I care. It's more a sarcastic sort of thing. So sometimes it can be used that way. But yeah, generally don't end your sentences with ka if you're using informal speech. If it's an informal verb, like if it's adjectives or nouns or something, then ka works a lot better. Like yume ka. Like if you're doing something like that, it's more like dreams, huh? It's not like dreams, question mark, but if you end a sentence with ka, it can kind of mean like, huh, you think, or something like that. But yeah, if you're asking somebody a question and it ends in an informal verb, don't put ka after it, just raise your vocal inflection and have an actual question mark. Otherwise it sounds a little weird. Prince asks, is a degree more important than experience when it comes to being a translator for media? This is similar to the question about the native translator. Again, and a lot of times the degree gets your foot in the door. Like they say, like, that's a requirement to apply for this job is you need a degree. my jobs that I've gotten, my degree is not in Japanese or in translation or linguistics, but they do still want like a college degree. So a degree in your language or linguistics or translation is not always required. And yeah, I mean, like, for your brain and to make you a good translator, you really don't need a college degree of any kind, but you do need several years of learning and then experience. And yeah, a degree and experience are both important. Sometimes the applications say, oh, you must have a college degree and 5 years of experience. And it's one of those catch-22s. It's like, well, how am I supposed to get the experience if you're not going to hire me without any experience? Victor asks, have you read some Japanese novels? Like Kokoro, for instance. I haven't heard of Kokoro. When you were able to accomplish that, and how was your literary experience reading them when compared to novels in English? Well, obviously, I'm not as good at reading novels in Japanese as I am in English, because English is my native language, and I'm a lot more proficient in that than in Japanese. But yeah, I've read novels in Japanese, only really light novels, and specifically light novels from Shigeyugi or Ayashi no Seres, and that's pretty much it. So that's like, I think 20 novels total. I mean, they're basically novels. They're like young adult fiction level of Japanese. But yeah, those are the only novels I've read in Japanese, about 20 of them. Yeah, and like the first novel I read through, it was the Nakago novel from Shigeyugi. I penciled in like all of the translations of words I was looking up as I went along, but this was like 4 months into my year in Japan. But towards the end of my year in Japan, and probably like my 5th or 6th novel, by then I wasn't even really bothering to stop and look up words. Like if I didn't know a word, I would just accept that I didn't know that word, and I would get what I could from context. And yeah, after a while, like by like the 3rd or 4th chapter of a book, I'd kind of get the general vibe of the book, and I was already familiar with the characters, of course, because I knew of Shigeyugi and Ayashi no Seres, so that helped a lot too. Yeah, it was pretty easy to get through those books. Rudolph's Red Nose says, I second the novel question. Well, you got the answer. Also, what were the first novels you read in Japanese, and do you translate novels, not counting visual novels? I did translate many of the Shigeyugi novels, actually. I translated like 5 or 6 or 7 of them. Yeah, and I had them up on my old website years ago, which I took down. Those translations, like I had them up for a while, but they kind of no longer represent my current abilities, so I didn't really want them out there. But I don't know, they're still pretty good, so I might, like, if I get a website eventually, like, put them back up again with a huge disclaimer, like, I translated these 20 years ago. John asks, how did you get into this industry and what drives you to keep going? Was it anime that sparked your love and interest for Japanese culture? Yeah, it was anime, basically. I watched Sailor Moon and I became obsessed with Sailor Moon, and I liked that, and I wanted to do that. So yeah, basically. Vincent Purple Guy asks, do you believe that mature anime that isn't sexually explicit should be more valid in the anime community? Is it not valid? I don't know. Yeah, I think good anime should be valid, I guess. Like, if it doesn't really matter to me if it's sexually explicit or not, as long as it has a really good story and good characters and it's like, it has a purpose of some sort, and it's entertaining, then it should be valid. Jim Boy Kelly asks, can you make a video on how to translate Western names into Japanese? I kind of did. I did a video explaining how Western words and sounds are expressed in katakana, so there's probably a card next to my face and or in the video description to that video. And yeah, making Western names into Japanese is pretty much the same process, so watch that video. And I might make another one specifically for names later. Homer Thompson asks, so kakeru is literally to hang. Do fluent Japanese speakers think of every one of the billion kakeru meanings as some variation of to hang, like megane o kakeru is to hang glasses on my face, is koshi o kakeru to hang my waist on a chair? Yeah, I mean, when I was first learning Japanese, that kind of stuff really tripped me up, especially like all the different words to put things on your body, like kakeru and tsukeru and shimeru and like kiru and haku, like all those different words for putting things on your body or hanging things on the wall, putting things on top of other things. But yeah, I mean, now I don't even think about it. It's kind of like there's a lot of weird things like that in English that I don't even think about. So yeah, it's one of those things that like many years down the road, you're not even gonna think about it or notice it anymore. Saint Valentine asks, what's your favorite hentai? Have you ever translated any? I'm not really into hentai, but I have seen some hentai. I think like the only ones that I actually enjoyed were like just ridiculously over the top because then they were funny to me because I have a twisted sense of humor. But I have translated not hentai, like hentai specifically, I think in the fan community is used to refer to like anime, like hentai anime specifically, pornographic anime. But I have translated porn, like straight up live action porn, and a few of those back in my Discotheque Media days. My favorite thing that I ever translated, like I think ever, for Discotheque, and unfortunately I don't think they ever wound up releasing this. I think I translated it for them and then they just decided not to go forward with it. But it was Kekko Kamen. It's like a hentai parody, and it's like this superhero who's actually kind of modest, but she's dressed in this ridiculously like provocative outfit, and like one of her attacks is like spread eagled and like she flashes people. And so that was hilarious though. I like parodies and satires, so that was fun. And I had fun translating that one. How to Learn Korean asks, what is the best and worst thing about being on YouTube? The best thing is that I get to do everything that I like doing pretty much. Like I've had this problem, not problem necessarily, just this thing all my life where there's been lots and lots and lots of different things that I really, really like doing, and I don't want to settle on just one thing. I like writing, I like acting, I like singing, I like, I've discovered I like film editing, I like making stories, I like making costumes, I like Japanese, I like translating, I like all of these things, and I also really like teaching. So the cool thing about YouTube is I get to do all of those things basically, and I get to do it on my own terms, I get to set my own hours, and yeah, that's the best thing. The worst thing about being on YouTube, I think, is that there's this balance between making videos for people that subscribed and that watch my videos regularly and they know who I am and they know what kinds of things I've talked about before, versus new people that have stumbled upon my video randomly. Hey, shout out to the people who stumbled upon this video randomly and this is your first encounter. And I'm sorry, this is not one of my better videos. But anyway, if you're new, give me a comment so I know you're new. Anyway, yeah, new people, they don't know who I am, they don't know my background, they don't know what I've talked about in other videos. So sometimes I have to include information like that because if these people don't have the context of who I am and what I do on this channel and what I've talked about before, they might be missing part of the picture and then therefore be misinformed about something, because my videos tend to be educational or informative in nature. So it's hard finding that balance between just cutting out all the crap and just getting to the point. And sometimes I'll get comments like, just get to the point already, or you talk too much. And it's like, well, I have to because some people don't know who I am. According to my analytics, like 2/3 of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. So that's kind of the hard part about it, is trying to be thorough enough and include enough information. Also, like counter-arguing arguments that people in the comment sections haven't made yet, but that I know they're going to make. And like trying to proactively get ahead of that. But yeah, it's hard also, like, because I teach Japanese in a lot of these videos, everyone's at a different level. So it's hard finding that balance of, okay, well, do I bother explaining particle wa in detail in this video when I've already done it in so many other videos? And like, I should work with an assumption that people have a sort of base knowledge of Japanese, but then I explain one thing one way, and then someone in the comments will inevitably be like, you forgot to mention this thing. It's like, yeah, but if I did mention it, this video would have been 10 hours long. So that's the hard part about it. Bam Meko asks, if you had to give up your current jobs, what would you do? So I take things a little too literally. So I imagine in a world where I have to give up my current jobs, it's because I'm not making enough money and we need to survive. So what I would do in that scenario is I would do whatever it took to make enough money so that we could have a place to live and food to eat. That's what I would do. Whatever job that may be, that is what I would do. But yeah, I'm taking the question not so literally, like if I weren't a translator, YouTuber person, like what would I be doing to make money, or what would I want to do? Yeah, it's like the things that I want to do aren't necessarily lucrative unless I get lucky. But the things that I would like to do for money if I weren't doing these things specifically is I'd like to be a writer, like a published author of stories, novels. I've always loved writing. I have like a few novels on my hard drive that I occasionally revisit and revise a little bit. And I think it'd be really cool to actually be a writer. But I would also like to be a dance teacher, which is something I have been already in the past. I just think it'd be cooler to do it like more full-time. maybe even have my own dance studio, specifically ballet, and to choreograph dances for the dancers, because I really enjoy doing those things as well. But again, it's like, being a dance teacher in today's climate is kind of impossible, and being a writer is kind of a long shot. It's kind of like being a YouTuber. So that was it. Thank you for all the questions. And again, I need suggestions for what I should do when I reach 10K subs. I'm going to take all your suggestions into consideration. Maybe we'll do some polls, or maybe I'll just pick whichever one I like the best if there's a really good suggestion. So leave your suggestions in the comments or send them to me or whatever. You guys know how to do social media. Anyway, thanks for watching.